Hi everyone, welcome to Free Movement Sewing. My name is Sandra Faustina, and for those of you who have been here before, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome to our channel. So over here at Free Movement Sewing, we talk all about sewing, of course, but most importantly, we talk a lot about stretch fabrics because we here are an expert. But over here, we talk a lot about stretch fabrics because we love sewing stretch fabrics, and we talk about how you actually sew your own dance wear, fitness wear, and even everyday wear, working with a lot of stretch fabrics. So for today's video, we're going to talk about 10 beginner sewing mistakes I wish I knew when I started sewing. So I'm going to save you all of that hassle and that heartache, and I'm going to share with you 10 sewing mistakes that I personally think would change your sewing life. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to tell you is to read your sewing machine manual. I know, it's so intuitive and you go like, it's a sewing machine, how hard can it be? Trust me. Over here, I have like a million sewing machines. So over here, I have the Baby Lock Enlighten, I have the Singer Heavy Duty, I have the Husqvarna, I've got, all the different sewing machines over here, many different types in my sewing studio. But all I can tell you is that every single sewing machine, so long as I don't go through the manual, I miss out on a lot of things. Make sure that you go through your sewing machine manual, so that's my first tip for you, to make sure you don't get it wrong, making sure you're putting your bobbins the right way, alright, whether it's a B or a P. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go check out other videos. But you also want to make sure that your tensions and everything are right, so please, go read your sewing machine manual. And if you didn't keep it, you definitely can look for it online as well. But if not, go ahead to ask the manufacturers. Or if you have any questions, also you can drop it down in the comments below. More than happy to help you. The second tip that I have for you would be to know that there are different types of sewing machine needles that you need for different types of fabrics. So I tend to get a lot of questions like, okay Sandra, what needles are you using for sewing stretch fabrics? What needle are you using for sewing jersey? What needle are you using for sewing chiffon? Needles. Different types of needles out there, and if you feel like you're sewing stretch fabrics and it's failing or the stitches are skipping, please remember there are different needles out there that you can get. And if you're sewing stretch fabrics, for example spandex or stretch mesh and stuff like that, always remember that there are stretch needles out there. You can go ahead and check out on our online store, so that's at freemovementsg.com. We'll link it down in the bio below as well. But always make sure, check your needles, make sure it's right. There are different types of needles with different types of fabrics and different thicknesses of needles as well. The third thing that I want to talk to you about today would be threads. Glorious threads, all sorts of threads out there, many different types of threads, different thicknesses as well. So, the quality of your threads do make a difference in the success of your sewing projects. I repeat, the quality of your threads determine the success of your sewing project. And why I say that is because a lot of times if you get like threads that you get from the hotels, right? The free threads that you get, those are really bad quality threads. You don't want to use that for your machines, of course. If you're using that for last minute emergency, sure, why not? But not for your machines. You want to make sure you use quality threads. We do sell different types of threads as well. So whether it's polyester cotton threads or woolly nylon threads, but there are many different brands out there that you can get as well. So go to your sewing supply store and check out what types of threads that they have to offer. But most importantly, find something that's of good quality, and that will ensure that your sewing is gonna be great. Because the last thing you want is when you're sewing that your thread is actually going to snap and break. And it happens a lot of the times. Thread could be one of the reasons, but there could be other reasons as well. But I'm not gonna go through that now. But thread quality is important. So make sure you get the right threads. The fourth thing I want to tell you would be to get the right machines. Sewing machines make a whole world of difference when you start to sew. I've got students telling me, hey Sandra, my sewing machine is 30 years old. I want to make it work. Would you say that I can just change up the needles, the sewing machine needles, and just make it work? Well, the fact is, you could, but it doesn't mean that you will enjoy the whole sewing process a lot more. Why I say that is because there are certain machines, okay, it depends on how well you care for the machines as well. So typically I would say, okay, 30 years ago, the technology is quite different from what we have today. So I definitely recommend getting a great sewing machine. You don't have to spend a lot on a sewing machine. In fact, we have some budget-friendly sewing machines like the Husqvarna Viking. It's one of my favorite sewing machines. It's a very basic sewing machine. It's not like these ones over here. But I love that machine. It's great. The engines are great, and it really helps to pull your fabric through so that your sewing projects become a lot more successful, a lot smoother, and you feel a lot better. So trust me on that. Get a good sewing machine, and that will definitely help you. The fifth beginner sewing mistake that I have for you today would be to pin your fabrics. If you're like me, that's me. But if you're like me, I tend to not pin too much, but that's also because at this point of time, I've been sewing a lot, so I'm kind of used to it. But if you are actually just starting to begin sewing, pin, pin, pin. Pin your fabrics together, pin as many as you need. Don't go overboard, about 1 inch apart would be great. But pin as much as you can at different angles if you need, just to make sure that it's holding all the fabrics in place. Especially if you're layering fabrics, there are many different types of fabrics that you can layer together. But the more you layer different types of fabrics together, the more the fabrics are actually going to move, especially if you use slippery fabrics like dancewear fabrics, like spandex and stretch mesh, and mesh is a hard fabric to sew. So if you're doing that, pin, pin, pin. Trust me. The 6th beginner sewing mistake that I want to share with you today would be that it's okay to make mistakes. Now, you want to make sure that when you're sewing, it's okay to make mistakes, and there are negative voices coming to your head. Snap them out. Because it's alright to make mistakes, and trust me, I've made a ton of mistakes, and that's why over here in this channel, I'm showing everything and sharing so many things. For sewing and in stretch fabrics and stuff like that. But of course, if you want it very in-depth, you can go check out online sewing courses as well. But the most important thing is that you need to know that it's okay to make mistakes. All you need to do is to get up again, redo it, and just keep going. That's the most important thing in the success of any sewing projects. Just remember, the more you sew, the easier it's going to be. And when it's easier to sew, you're going to realize that it's going to be a lot more fun, because sewing is a form of therapy. The 7th beginner sewing mistake that I have for you would be to ask for help. Seek help when you need, alright? Because I've been in a very dark time when I'm sewing and I have one handy sewing machine and I'm sewing and I get frustrated because I don't understand why this is not working, that's not working, and why does my needle keep breaking, or why does my thread keep going, why does everything keep bulging, why does the machine keep eating my fabrics, yada yada yada, the list goes on. Because of that, I would definitely recommend you to ask for help when you need. But most importantly, make sure that your base is right. And that's why we have our online sewing courses. And honestly, I think it makes a lot of a difference. If I could have found an online sewing course like what we have, I would have paid all the money to actually go for it. Because the thing is, I don't want you to go through all the years of hardship that I went through. It was so hard. So I want to make sure that you don't have to go through what I went through, but you can still get the maximum education that you can get, and to make sure that all of your projects are as successful as it can be. The 8th tip is going to be actually really good for you, because if you are having trouble with your sewing machine and you don't understand what's going on, the main thing I want you to do is to stop and take a break. I'm very serious about this. Look at my face, I'm so serious. I'm serious about this because the moment you're very frustrated, it's usually harder to find a solution out of it. So I want to make sure that you can actually step back, take a breather, drink some water, go grab some snacks, or just play with your pet. Please. Thank you. Play with your pet. So cute. And after you've got out of that state of frantic frustration and just like upsetness going on, find a solution, whether you're googling it, YouTubing it, asking us in the comments down below, or reaching out to us, DM us to ask, but just ask. And the most important thing to make sure is that you're asking the right person for help. So just remember, take a break when you're feeling frustrated, or if you've been sewing for a really long time, like I used to sew through all the night because I'm rushing for like 50 costumes, then I would say take a break, take a breather, go out and walk in nature, play with your pets, do something to just get you out of that state and come back to it again. Trust me, sometimes I find that the solutions are just right there. It's just that I'm just so frustrated, everything is clogged up here and I just can't get it out of my head. So taking a break will always help. The next thing I have for you today would be to check your fabric grain line. Now, if you're not sure what fabric grain line is, of course, we talk a lot about it in our online course because it makes or breaks your costume. Especially when you're working with stretch fabrics, you need to realize where your grain line is, you need to realize where the stretch of the fabrics are and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that that's all correct. And once you figure that out, you can go ahead to actually make it work for you. And sewing is going to be so much more of a breeze. So if you're not sure what in the world I'm talking about, you can just let us know. We could probably do another video for that. Just let me know if you're interested in finding out what grain lines really are. Definitely do that for you. The last and final tip that I have would be to clean and maintain your machine. Now, sewing machines are working really hard for you. My baby lock over here It gets really dirty when I'm sewing lots and lots of different costumes. My Singer Heavy Duty, it gets lots and lots of gunk stuck inside when I'm sewing a lot, especially when it's velvet. So, how you want to make sure that your machine runs smoothly is to ensure that you maintain your sewing machine. If you were to ask me, typically after a sewing project, I like to really use a lint remover and just quickly wipe the sewing machine to remove any of the dust as much as possible. But of course, once in a while, I still on my machines, I still go in-depth cleaning. I use the brushes, I use different tools to really get all of the gunk and that fluff and all that out of my machines because my babies can't breathe. If you want your sewing projects to be successful, you should always look at maintaining your sewing machine. It's the same as how you maintain your body. If you don't maintain your body, you're gonna feel very sluggish and you don't really feel like moving, you don't want to because you don't work out. Same thing. So you always need to remember that maintenance is the same whether it's a sewing machine, your body, your mind, your health, everything. It's the same. So that's why I say sewing is actually so beautiful, because the thing is, it actually empowers a lot about us and how well we take care of ourselves and how well we take care of our babies over here. By the way, if you like any of the sewing machines here, let me know down below. Did you find any of the tips useful for you? Or all the things that were mentioned was something that you actually thought about? Let me know as well, because I'll be more than happy to actually help you in your sewing journey. But always remember that you're not alone when you're sewing. There are many communities out there, many groups out there, many forums out there that can actually help you. But over here at Free Movement Sewing, we're a channel that really shares different tips and tricks for you, and hoping that you don't have to go through all of the pain that I went through to get the whole sewing momentum going. So if you found this video useful, go ahead and smash the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to us as well, because it means so much to me and to my whole entire team here at Free Movement. And more than anything else, more than happy to see you again for our next video, because every single week we have a new video coming up for you. Now, whether you want to actually sew for a living or if you want to sew for fun, always here to support you in your journey. And as always, if you have any questions, let us know anytime. I love you, my sewists. Keep sewing, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye! Ta-ta!